Oh, hello. So today we're going to be making soluble salt out of an insoluble base, and we're going to be using copper oxide as the insoluble base. See if you can work out the formula for copper 2 oxide. It's insoluble in water, that's why it's called an insoluble base. So it's not an alkali, because an alkali is soluble in water. So it's an insoluble base, and we're going to be chucking that in some acid, sulfuric acid, and making some copper sulfate. But first of all, we have to get our safety gear on. So I've got my safety gear on, and let's try and make some copper sulfate. I've got here my acid. This has been warmed, alright? If you don't warm it, it won't work properly, it won't react, but don't boil it, okay? I'm at home obviously, and I don't have a Bunsen burner, funnily enough, so I've just warmed it in a water bath. You'd use a Bunsen burner. Make sure you don't boil it. We don't want boiling acid going everywhere. Obviously that would be rather unpleasant. So just warm it, and once it's warm, you can add your copper oxide to it. Copper oxide, it's a black powder going into a colourless liquid, and it's going to make a blue solution. As we know, copper sulfate is blue. If I add this in now, I'm going to add a little bit, just slowly at the start, because if it's too hot it will spit. So I'll just add a little bit in, that's not too bad. And then what we want to do is chuck a bit more in and give it a good stir. The key to this, you have to add, and this is the key word, if you get this in an exam question, an excess of copper oxide, okay? And excess means there's more copper oxide, much more than the sulfuric acid. What is the point of adding excess? Well, you need to make sure all that acid is used up, okay? When you filter it, which we're going to do in a minute, you do not want any acid left over. When you've got your copper sulfate at the end, you don't want any acid left in your copper sulfate for obvious reasons. So we chuck a good amount of copper oxide in there. Once the solution stays black, and you can see that no more of the copper oxide is dissolving, then you know that you've got enough in there. Don't be afraid to put a reasonable amount in there. And if you look at that now, that's staying solidly black. I think we can be fairly sure that we have now got an excess of copper oxide in there. So we're just going to let that cool down a little bit, and then the next stage is filtration. Okay, so I've got my conical flask and my filter funnel here. So now what I'm going to do is just filter this solution, and we should get some rather nice dark blue copper sulfate coming through in the bottom, and you can see there that's fairly blue. So we'll leave that to run and have a look at the results. Alright, so we've filtered it, and there is our lovely dark blue copper sulfate solution. So that is our soluble salt that we've made from an insoluble base. So a base, not an alkali. And all we have to do now is pop it into one of these, an evaporating basin. And we're going to now heat that up over a water bath. And we just need to heat it up until we see some crystals forming just around the side. And then once we've done that, I'm just going to leave it on the windowsill, and that's going to evaporate out and should give us some lovely blue copper sulfate crystals. Well, I've heated this up in the water bath now, and you can see some crystals on the side there. You can see that rim of blue around the edge of the copper sulfate, just in there, and that's all you need really. You just need some crystals to form, and then you'll get better crystallization when you leave it on the windowsill. So I'm going to pop it over on the windowsill now, and there we go, nice sunny spot on the windowsill, and we'll leave that there for a couple of days and see what our crystals look like. And here we go, here's our lovely copper sulfate crystals